Why have you made the decision to talk to us now?
I got nothing to lose. Like I said, I've lost everything I love. And just the narrative and the false information that's out there is a lot. So I figured, why not share the truth?
When it comes to the chain of Pierce County substance abuse treatment centers he used to own, Rainier Recovery Centers, Jeremiah Dunlap really has lost everything. State investigators shut Rainier down after determining clients enrolled at his clinics who sat in these rooms and in these chairs got little or no treatment for their addictions.
I tried to help people. The Department of Health did not do a good investigation at all.
Is it true what they say, that you were just trying to make money on this?
Definitely was never about money. I ended up at the end of the day at over $150,000 in debt.
A year ago, November 2024, the Washington State Department of Health suspended Rainier Recovery's treatment licenses. A state investigation uncovered substandard practices, fraud, and corruption at its 3 locations, including this office in Gig Harbor. Investigators said Dunlap was behind it all.
Basically, there was a group of ex-employees, disgruntled employees who, decided to team up, make complaints, do this whole smear campaign. And the Department of Health came in, talked to them, and just ate it up.
Kind of having that fight with myself of, this doesn't sound right.
You want to be on the camera?
Alyssa Keene, who we interviewed in April, is one of at least 8 staff members who cooperated with the state investigation. They said Dunlap would pressure other staff to change or alter the results of clinical assessments, treatment levels, urinalysis results, and other medical records at the request of patients' defense attorneys.
And then it would be, we just want to make the attorneys happy. And regularly it would kind of just be burned into your head, like, that's the moneymaker.
In the end, Dunlap accepted this agreed order, which did not dispute the accusations, that effectively forced him to sell the business. You signed that document where you didn't deny these things. Why?
I signed it to keep the doors open. The only other option was to close the business, and I worked my butt off, and I was willing to fall on the sword for the company. If you look through that investigation with Department of Health, like, it's all fluff. It's all there to grab the reader and, let you guys be sheep and just follow whatever they say. But there is no evidence of any of that.
One of the big things the Department of Health found was that trainees were making decisions without a licensed professional looking over their shoulder. Some of the documents that I got from the Department of Health include the brochure from your company, which you might recognize this right here. This page says that these are the leads, and here you have a trainee, you have a trainee, you have a trainee, you have a trainee, and those are your leads? That doesn't seem to make sense.
You don't need to be a supervisor. Anybody can be a lead based, on your work performance.
Lead to me is somebody who is an experienced counselor.
Typically, yes, but, we couldn't afford to have extensive social workers or people with master's degrees. Like, we're a new company. We were only open a year and a half.
So we're just going to walk right back there, okay?
In April, a King 5 investigation showed how that inexperience could have fatal consequences.
And he said I was intoxicated, but I don't know.
We identified Brett Ryan, who died from a fentanyl overdose while in treatment at Rainier. He took his last breath in the upstairs bedroom of his mother's house in Sumner.
I was laying in bed and starting to go to sleep, and I heard a thud. All hell broke loose. There were people running all over this place. Ambulances, police, and then they finally broke the news to me, and I was kind of in shock.
Judy Russo thought her son's death was a tragic relapse until we told her that Rainier Recovery recommended minimal treatment for Brett, a long-term addict.
I feel like, if I made a mistake, oh my God, I feel terrible. Why wouldn't I?
We found Brett was treated by this Rainier trainee, listed in company brochures as a counseling lead. Did you think you were capable of doing that job?
It was overwhelming, but whatever I put my mind to, I think I can do.
We interviewed Jennifer Richards at her Tacoma apartment in April after seeing her name in Brett Ryan's treatment records. I drink because I have switched from heroin to alcohol. It sounds to me like what he's telling you is he has a very serious drug and alcohol problem.
Yes. That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Was this did you make a mistake here?
I might have. I'm a trainee. That's why they call us trainees.
What happened in Brett Ryan's case?
I can't really talk about that due to the ongoing litigation.
Because there's been a lawsuit filed against Rainier Recovery now?
That's what I've heard, yes.
State records accuse Dunlap of failing to provide the required oversight for his counselor trainees. But there's more. Investigators said he had a deal with a prominent DUI attorney.
Hello, Miss Bowden. We're the King 5 investigators. We need to talk to you about Rainier Recovery.
Although she's not named in state documents, we uncovered her identity. Barbara Bowden, owner of a longtime law practice in Lakewood. Bowden would not comment for this story.
Were you harmful to clients, ma'am?
This complaint is one of several references to Barbara Bowden's law firm.
10 years ago, we exposed a half dozen Pierce County treatment clinics that the state eventually shut down, all connected to Bowden.
The deal was that you would alter an evaluation or assessment based on what that attorney wanted.
Never. Would never do that.
Did you have a deal with Barbara Bowden?
Absolutely not. I never had a deal with any attorney, any courts, any probations.
Investigators said Rainier Recovery received guaranteed revenue from Bowden's steady stream of clients, and Bowden in turn was popular with defendants who would get lighter sentences and treatment plans.
What's your opinion of Barbara Bowden?
I think she's good at what she does. I do believe she cares about her clients, which is something different than, a lot of the attorneys. They're just a dollar sign.
I understand it's a tough situation to be in.
It was Bowden's law office that represented Brett Ryan, who died while in Rainier's care.
Through here, you'll see we have a counseling office.
Recently, Jeremiah Dunlap ran afoul of state health investigators again.
Try to make it as peaceful of an environment as possible.
It involved this Gig Harbor office, one of the former locations of Rainier Recovery. The state received an application to open a new drug treatment center here, Peninsula Counseling, from this woman.
Alcohol takes 178,000 lives every year.
Former Rainier counselor trainee Sherilyn Finlayson. In October, the state denied the application, a decision Finlayson has appealed.
They're alleging that Jeremiah Dunlap was involved in the day-to-day operations of Peninsula Counseling, and that's factually baseless. It's not true.
Like Dunlap, Finlayson also blames Rainier Recovery's fall on a flawed state investigation and disgruntled employees.
I feel like there was a set of people that brought in a lot of toxicity, with a lot of spite, and I don't understand why. I was eventually asked to be part of taking the CEO down and joining a smear campaign and sit right with me.
And if you actually look at the documents the Department of Health put out, it's all hearsay. Like, there's no facts there. There's no evidence of anything. What corruption is there evidence of? Nothing.
Here's a list of some of the evidence against you and your former company. There's the Department of Health investigation. There's documents that have been supplied to me by the Department of Health through public records requests and by Judy Russo, who is Brett Ryan's mom. There's about a half dozen of your former employees that I've spoken to personally. There's Peninsula Counseling, where the state now alleges that it was kind of a shell where you were actually going to be behind the operation there. There's your association with Barbara Bowden, and there's the long history of issues with Barbara Bowden. That's a long stack of evidence that's piled up against you.
To me, it doesn't sound like there's any evidence. That's just a lot of people talking.
Days after that interview, the state took more action against Jeremiah Dunlap. In addition to the penalties against his facility license, the state has suspended his professional license, which means he can no longer provide counseling services in Washington state. Dunlap now lives out of state. He didn't want to say where. I'm Chris Ingles in the King 5 newsroom.